Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our special called Finance, Audit, and Budget Committee, chaired by myself, Commissioner Ted Terry, joined by committee members Commissioner Michelle Long-Spears and Commissioner Shakira Johnson. On the committee, also joining us is Super District 7 Commissioner Dr. Ladina Bolton. Thank you for being here. We're also joined by COO Williams, Budget Director TJ Sigler, and our County Attorney, Mr. William Linkus. Thank you all. Oh, there you are. Hey, yes, and District 3 Commissioner Nicole Masai has joined us as well. Wonderful. Got a great group here today. So on the agenda today, we have several
Excuse
discussions.
me, Mr. Chair.
Oh, Commissioner Davis Johnson is joining us. Hello. All right, thank you for speaking up. Commissioner District 5 Maria Davis Johnson is on the phone. All right, we got a full house. Okay. So on the agenda, just to recap here, so we have a discussion from OIII related to the water sewer billing delinquent accounts. Director Campbell is here. The medical examiner will speak on the opioid settlement funds, and then our FY 2025 budget amendments discussion, and that is also captured in item 1060. So let's just start off with probably the most important thing, which is the budget. That's maybe our top priority here today. And so, commissioners, a spreadsheet was handed out. And just to give a little context here, so we did ask commissioners to provide budget amendment recommendations for the short and long term. And so what you'll see here today is two spreadsheets. The first two are the longer term, and then the remaining are the shorter term. And I will ask Director Sigler to walk us through this spreadsheet. We have had discussions with administration, and this is where we're at so far in our discussions on these budget amendments, short and long term. So, CO Williams, if that's okay, Director Sigler can walk us through those.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Go ahead, TJ.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. As Chair said, the first 2 pages of this printout are the longer-term CIP items. So it's projects totaling about almost $62 million. And we were going to put those where we have a CIP committee that's working through a list of requests from departments to develop a 5-year CIP plan. So we were planning to incorporate this with that list and have that part of the discussion, with the plan to have recommendations back as part of the FY 26 budget recommendations.
Okay.
So unless you'd like me to go through these individually.
Well, let's just pause here, and for the first 2 pages, commissioners, we'll open it up for any questions or comments on the long-term budget and CIP list, making sure we're not missing anything, or if there's any questions anyone might have. And I'll just pause a minute for y'all to look through it. No questions? Okay.
No, I have a question.
Oh, you have Commissioner Johnson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So question on the process for the CIP list. What is their time frame? Do we know of when they'll come back with the priority list?
Mm-hmm.
And will we have any input in that priority list?
Right, so the timeframe is to have that recommendation to the CEO initially as part of the 2026 budget. And then that will whatever recommendations from the CEO would then be part of what's presented to the Board of Commissioners. And Board of Commissioners will have the final vote on prioritizing that list.
Okay.
And so, which
Go ahead,
would
Zach.
mean that by December 15th, the board would get whatever the CEO's budget would be.
Okay.
Yeah. Additionally, just as we discussed this, it's important to note for the capital, we'll be reviewing as part of the capital programming effort, but a number of these items seem to be SPLOST eligible, so we will be evaluating those within the context of SPLOST funds as well. And wherever there are opportunities for other funding sources other than our general operating budget, that's what we're going to look for. So as TJ indicated, these will all be evaluated in the context of capital requests, but the funding sources may vary.
Thank you for adding that, because the one item, sidewalk project that I have in my district, it has been on the SPLOST list. I'm just wanting to elevate that because it is a safety hazard, so thank you.
Understood.
Absolutely. Great. Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioners, any other questions or comments on those first 2 pages?
I have a question.
Yes, go ahead.
Again, thank you so much for your hard work on organizing this and advocating and working with the administration. The District 2 items, so just to make sure I'm crystal clear on this, and forgive me if someone else asked it as I was reviewing everything. So the first 2 pages are our CIP, and you're looking at the CIP beginning in 2026. Is that what you said, TJ?
Correct. So
Okay.
we'd already initiated the CIP committee to look at other requests that we received. So the total list, including this, I believe, is around $224 million. And we're trying to come up with our recommendations, one for the CEO, and then the CEO will have the final recommendation to the Board of Commissioners.
Okay, great, thank you so much. So if I'm reading this correctly, then this is not numbered, but it's about midway down. Human Services Mason Mills Senior Center Edition, $363,000. So we're suggesting that on the CIP list, this $363,000 be placed on the 2026 to 2030 CIP, is that correct?
Well, it will be reviewed as part of that list, correct?
Okay, so what about the other $11 million, actually for the construction of it?
So the process that we have is that we're going to review all the different requests and prioritize those, and then identify what funding sources are available. Just because we know that the total list is gonna exceed, even what's available
Sure.
through SPOS. So just trying to figure out where the funding's coming from.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, is it possible to revise this where it has 363,000, instead make it separated out, I guess might be the best approach there, so that the 11 million doesn't actually fall off the plate and then not even be considered till 2031?
Yeah, I think that's fine. Zach?
Are you
TJ?
okay with that?
So what you're saying is make 2 separate items.
Either 2 separate items or just notate within the one line item that there is a 363,000, which is for design, I'm assuming, even though it says design and construction, and that 11 million is actually for construction.
Yeah. Well,
Is that acceptable?
Absolutely, and let's do 2 separate items.
Okay, all
Because
right.
that construction number may go up depending on the design.
Very fair, understood.
This was a math error.
Okay.
Oh, 1 minute?
She had 11,000 to that one, it should have been 11 million. So that was a typo.
Oh, so it should be 11,363,000?
No.
Oh, it's, okay. Apparently there's been an error,
All right,
and it
we'll
looks
get
like
the
it's
updated.
11,352,000. So 352 for design, not 363.
Okay.
Okay.
So if you'll make that change. So the way that we have it is one single line item, but if you would rather, Zach, make it 2, that's fine as
I
well.
think so. I think
Okay,
so.
go ahead and do that. My next question is for the Arts Council. Looks like on the CIP list, we have startup funding of $150,000 as part of the capital, the CIP plan. Why would that be placed there instead of on the actual budget request for this year? I'm just wondering if it might have been placed in the wrong location.
It may have been. I think there was maybe some question of whether that was funding for the counselor to do a project, and maybe the project was what we were thinking was CIP.
Yeah, this is operating
it
costs,
was.
right?
It could be operating, it could be for a mural. Again, that's the purpose of the whole planning process itself, is to determine how we're going to move forward with that Arts Council. So where, I guess with the information you have right now, where do you feel is the best location for this item?
And I do think, so maybe one thing that would inform us on that, the answer to that question is related, the administration wants any funding items that might be tied to a resolution before the Board of Commissioners to sort of go hand in hand. So if we have the Arts Council resolution and startup funding, those things go together if we
Okay.
pass those together. And then for this startup funding, so that would be, I think the question is, do we want to go ahead and say, we would like some actual installation cost funding in the 2026 budget? And that's just sort of putting it out there early.
I would love to have it in the 2026 budget, the 150,000. We already have 50,000 that was set aside and voted on by the commissioners earlier this year for the 50,000, just to constitute the Arts Council and pay for the planning of it. which came in at 35,000. So there's $15,000 of wiggle room. And then the notion was that we'd have this additional $150,000 for startup funding, whether that's in, structuring the council itself, or I'd like to see it personally go towards a project, like a mural,
Okay.
something along those lines, just to get off the ground and show the value of this council. So just to make sure I understand you, Commissioner Terry, are you suggesting then that we just keep the $150,000 here for now and then revisit in the January budget planning process?
Well, we want it in the December 15th budget.
Right,
Okay,
right.
request.
okay,
So yes,
okay.
right, so your request would be to have it there, and between now and that date, we would just get a little more clarity if it's 100,000 for operational costs, 50,000 for a mural.
Right.
What, just kind of spell out what it is.
Okay, so if that's the case, then this item will move to the operating cost, so the last 2 pages of our presentation today, and then with the notation that we're looking to have it adopted in the FY 2026 budget.
Say that again.
I have a question.
Okay, hang on one second, Commissioner. Commissioner Longspear, just
Okay.
state that last thing again.
Just making sure I'm understanding the best route for this item. So we are saying then that what's currently listed as $150,000 under the CIP budget for startup funding is that instead we're suggesting that we move it to the operating request, the budget request, but note for the FY 2026 budget.
Well, I think actually, so yes, but it would stay on this sheet.
Okay.
Because
I'm
that's
down
what,
with keeping it on the sheet so we have our
Yeah.
eye on the ball.
yeah, and so TJ, I think what we're hearing is we want this line item to be considered in the FY 2026 budget.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
Okay. All right.
I believe that concludes my questions. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Davis Johnson on the phone?
Okay. Yes, and thank you so much. Okay, so I'm just trying to get a little clarity on what we just discussed, because it was my understanding we was going to hear back from the administration to get their input or thoughts on the Arts Council.
Arts Council.
It seems that we're going on two different distinct tracks on this Arts Council. And so I think that the CEO was coming back at our next committee of the whole to discuss her thoughts on the Arts Council. Because, as I said earlier, it should be DeKalb County Arts Council. And so I think that would be through the administration, not through Discover DeKalb, who has their own board that we would not have input on, but we would have the repercussions on whatever happened. It would go to the county. And so, as I stated earlier, I would like to have the administration's input so that we're all on the same track as we move forward on this Arts Council. I do believe that we need it. I do believe that it's valuable, but I feel that we need to be on the same track.
We're on the same page because these first 2 pages, we're not actually making any budget amendments today on these 2 items. They're just sort of to be determined for future funding. So I think, we do need to figure out the setup. What Commissioner Longspear is asking for is just to have this money considered for the 26 budget that we'll vote on, obviously by March 1st of next year. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Bolton.
Thank you, Commissioner Terry, and I just wanted to address the question that was here on page 2, the last item for District 7, when it comes to Midway Park and Recreation Center. And so This request did come out of a conversation with Parks and Rec in which they indicated, and we'll see a little bit later, there was a request for funds for the master plan. And so, because they communicated that Midway was already on their radar, I wanted to go ahead and make sure that we push this up to the top of the list, because it's been quite some time since Midway has had any major renovations completed.
Okay. Zach, is that?
Yes, and so what I don't see, and I'll just make sure if it's needed, some design, just like what we just talked about.
It's on the second part of the list.
Okay,
So
okay,
it's on
good,
the-
okay.
Yep,
Good, so we have it covered in the operating, perfect, yep.
thank you.
Okay, great. Commissioners Messiah or Patrick, any questions or comments on the first 2 pages?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I think we've already gone over the questions that I would have related to the Arts Council project. But then on page 2, I'm at the section where we're talking about the cameras, the flock cameras. And so we already had an allocation, it's supposed to come through District 3 previously, related to flock cameras. And then talking to our interim chief, apparently the license plate reader, there's something completely different than those flock cameras, and wouldn't be as helpful as what had been communicated to us as recent as our national night out this week. So I do want to ensure that we acknowledge that this was already allocated out of District 3 as it's showing as a District 6 effort or endeavor. Then also, the district was awarded $1 million, also an additional $100,000 for LED lights on Glenwood. So I think that sort of ties into Commission Super 7 and related to the flock cameras on Glenwood Road. But again, there were supposed to be LED lights, and there was a number of flock cameras that are coming in and talking to COO related to that. So I just wanted to make sure we address that and, where the funds will come from that and the support. And then lastly, as it relates to, I'm trying to find exactly where it is, and I'm sorry, there is the Sugar Creek Tennis for $500,000. That's the next one. And so that had already been allocated through a part of our SPLOST 2. So, and that was, again, District 3. So just want to acknowledge, again, that was already a District 3 effort, and allocations from SPLOST 2 of the $500 was supposed to come out of that also.
Okay, gotcha. All right, let me take those in order. So, okay, so the trailer flock camera for Columbia Drive. So TJ, I think we can remove that because I think, one, there are additional funds available that police have not used. And then I think what y'all have said is you're working on the real-time crime center kind of comprehensive plan. So that would involve flock cameras, live cameras, et cetera. So you want to actually develop a greater strategy before individualized locations.
Yes, if I could, Mr.
Yeah, go
Chair.
ahead.
And so, yes, what I would enjoy is the opportunity to bring back, the CEO will actually be putting forward a strategy utilizing flock and other cameras as part of the real-time crime center that will certainly incorporate these and many, many more locations. So what I'm taking away from these types of conversations, that the commission is very interested in flock or similar cameras. And as soon as we bring forward our strategy, I think you will be very much pleased with what we're proposing. And so we look forward to doing that before the end of the year.
And I was going to ask about a time frame because District 3, we're part of our efforts. We're wanting, and we understand that when cameras do come available, they have to be rotated. There were some cameras that were on Columbia Drive at one point. We were advised they had to be moved, and also just the need for a camera on pilot, as I've shared in the past. So we're going to put forth some monies out of our office so that can take place. But I do believe there does need to be more of a concerted effort to get a camera there sooner than later, so I support what Commissioner Terry had put forth, but again, there had been money that had been allocated towards it, just wanting, before the end of the year to see some cameras there and to, since there had already monies come out of our District 3 budget in the past, was supposed to go towards that, just try to see what we can do to get that done.
Understood.
Thank you.
Understood.
Okay, good. All right, so we'll follow up on money that's already been allocated for cameras and making sure they get done this year.
Yep, there's a number of them out that commission districts allocated last year and at the beginning of this year that are in the queue. And then in addition to that, we have a lot more.
Okay, and then on the Glenwood LED lights, those are for street lights, was that right?
Yeah, so each district was awarded $1 million, also $100,000 for LED lights. And particularly, we were to use ours for Glenwood.
Okay.
And the lighting on Glenwood. So it sounds like, just from looking at your face, TJ, something we need to follow up with you about. I know Mrs. Atwaters were looking to pull where that information particularly had come from, the actual meeting and agenda item.
Okay, so I guess there might be an agenda item that was previously passed for LED lights in certain districts. So,
Correct.
TJ, is that something you can just research and come back to the committee on later?
Sure, we can work with District 3's office.
And Mrs. Atwaters has it as well, so if you want to follow up with her, she has it also.
Okay, all right. You have questions on the LED lights?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Commissioner Bolton and then Commissioner Long-Spears.
So I recall that we were working with Georgia Power to get LED lights from, I guess, Camera Road down to Covington. Is that what you're referring to, or are you specifically asking about district funds? Because that's already something we're doing.
Yeah, let's find out more about where we are, because I remember that it was several streets, Memorial Drive was included.
Exactly.
But I believe, Zach, y'all are working with Georgia Power about sort of a county-wide lighting plan.
We are. But
as
I do
well.
want to make sure that there's things out there that need to be captured and part of the conversation, that they don't get lost.
Okay, all right, let's stay on the LED lights. Commissioner Long-Spears, then Patrick.
Thank you very much for the opportunity for a few follow-up questions.
Just on LED lights, though.
Oh, no, not on LED, sorry.
Okay, all right, we'll come back and follow up.
Yeah,
before we get
pass
through
on to that.
All right, Commissioner
Finish
Patrick.
that, and then I'm ready
LED
whenever
lights.
you are.
LED lights. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Two areas that I've asked for lighting, Evans Mill Bridge under 285 and Henderson Mill Road Bridge under 85, under 285 as well. Henderson Mill Road has 4 lights that are super low, not very helpful. Evans has none, and so if there's a way that we could get those lighted appropriately, I think that would be grateful. That's been a request for quite some time that I've been having. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. And it says here, TJ, we want to get a cost estimate. So is that something transportation can get for us in the next couple of weeks?
Right, we reached out to Ms. Keeter last week, and I believe she's here. I don't know if she has information she wants to share at this point.
Okay, come on down. Let's maybe sit right there.
I'll
Sure.
just be brief. The estimates for those lights are $55,000 total.
Okay, can we add those into the short-term list, Zach and TJ?
I think so. Are these, Chris, this is SPOS eligible?
It could be like Glenwood in front of the park, where it came out of District 3 Commissioner's discretionary funds. It could come out of Robert's District 1 discretionary funds.
Okay, all right. Let's get it on the list. and we'll-
Okay,
we'll
all
talk
right,
about
so
how to pay
Commissioner
for it.
Patrick will add those specific lights to the short-term list.
That's a bright idea, thank you.
This is a bright idea.
This is all a setup for that, wasn't it?
All right, and then, yes, we'll move that one for 55,000 to the second list. Okay, and then Commissioner Messiah, the Sugar Creek improvements. So Parks had reported that it's a $3 million total for the current pickleball and tennis court improvements. So are you good with making that 500,000 $3 million, just so we have the full cost recognized?
That's fine.
Okay, and
That's
then we'll
fine.
make that a District 3 and 6 item?
Okay.
Okay, we'll work on that together. So TJ, can you make those changes, make it a District 3-6 request, Sugar Creek improvements, $3 million?
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anything
I
else?
yield back
Commissioner?
to you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Davis Johnson, anything on the first 2 pages?
No.
Thank you very much. Okay, so back to page 1, under the CIP, second to bottom, again, the DeKalb Arts Council. Under User Department, it has Board of Commissioners. Can you make that TBD until we figure out where that will live?
Yes.
Thank you. And then my second comment is the very top item on page 2 for the 1.1 million Briarcliff Road sidewalk. It says might be in design. What's the status of this project? So COO Williams, is that something you can respond to, or Mr. Kingsbury?
Well, that's the question that we have. Patrice, I think, can respond.
Thank you.
But some of these
Thank
were
you, Ms.
questions
Peter.
that we're asking ourselves.
Sure, I understand. I just, since it's here, I'm going to ask.
I got you.
I'll
Patrice?
get comfortable on this one. Push, there it goes. All right, so we have, we're working on final plans on this. We have right-of-way plans. So once we get the right-of-way plans, there's 2 temporary easements. That's all
I'm
that's.
sorry. Go ahead and repeat that. I
Oh.
couldn't hear you. Thank you.
On this project, we have, we're working on final design.
Uh-huh.
We have right-of-way plans. There's 2 temporary easements, 2 parcels of temporary easements. And once construction's funded, we can move forward with it. We will need a GDOT permit on this one, though, so that adds a little more time.
Okay, all right, and we will need GDOT permission.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
42.
Huh?
Briarcliff is State Route 42.
Okay, okay, great. All right, thank you so much. I was just wanting an update. I appreciate that.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Patrick, you had a follow-up for the first 2 pages?
Yes, I do, Mr.
Okay,
Chairman.
go
Thank
ahead.
you. All right, just to briefly mention these land acquisitions, one has the potential for being a park, one has the potential for being a regional, perhaps a component to a regional transit center. And so that's what the asks are for those. Sidewalk repairs, I know we've discussed that quite a bit, so, and I know we just recently approved a contract, I believe, at a PWI that
Yes.
talks about actually hiring contractors to do that work, so I'm grateful for that. The 350,000 transferred to the CIP in 2024, does that mean that we're gonna make do with 350, or we're gonna fulfill that all the way up to $500,000 for the districts?
So TJ, I think so first off, we have last year's funding, 350, 50K per district is still available. So to the extent there are sidewalk repairs that need to be done now, that's available, right, TJ?
That's correct. Those funds were transferred. I wouldn't be able to speak for certain whether any commissioners made use of those funds yet, but I don't believe they have.
Okay, and then Commissioner Patrick, I think the idea, your request here is that you would like to add another 500,000 in 2026's budget. That's what your request is?
Countywide, just to be clear.
Countywide?
Right, unless you want to make sure District 1 has the best sidewalks.
Okay. Yeah, sure, countywide.
And I
All right, so
wouldn't
pro
wouldn't
rata.
turn that down. The next one, so are we built out and complete when it comes to the animal shelters, or is there an expectation that we're going to have additional demand and we need to build more of those outdoor shelters that we have?
Go ahead.
I think it would be safe to say that we should plan to build more.
Okay, okay. And do we have a time frame for that?
No, we have not put forth any, strategy for the next group, but, I think it's safe for us to anticipate needing more over the next few months as we populate these first 10.
Right.
We'll have a much better feel.
Right, understood. Okay, well, so there was this discussion amongst some of the commissioners about the idea of having a master plan for that land, I think about a total of 13 acres, and the estimate I had heard was about $100,000. Is that still, is this looking towards 26, or is this a mid-year
So
item?
I think, TJ, that money is still, was approved earlier this year, so we just have to activate it if that's the desire of the commissioners. Is that right?
We can check on that. I know that there was funding approved last year, but I'm not sure that any of that was for, or still available for the master plan, but.
Okay,
we'll
and I think
check.
it was fencing and a plan, it was kind of styled as like like outdoor facilities for the runs and things.
Runs,
And
but also soccer field for the kids that are in that area. Heavily Spanish community, and I think that they're already
Okay.
using it unofficially.
Okay.
It would be nice just to, perhaps an AstroTurf and some bleachers might be appropriate.
Okay, so you want to look at like a larger plan?
Yeah.
Beyond just the animal shelter?
Because
Okay.
that is about 13 acres of land, if I recall correctly.
Okay, let's come back to that one and just check with parks and the airport, I think, is the other,
Right.
is the main
Right. And we
stakeholder.
may have to bifurcate the two different things, one for the animal shelter and runs, and the other for other recreational uses, because it's a different thing when you're in a city.
Okay, but I believe Director Ellis is able to activate his master planners that are on call to begin that process. Okay, so,
Okay.
all right, so let's follow up on that, because that money has been allocated, so we need to see it to fruition.
And then the next item is, again, the flock cameras. So back in '23, I'd allocated about $133,000 for 20 flock cameras in District 1. And I have not seen those installed or got notification they were installed. So is this going to be wrapped up into the CEO's overall crime lab approach?
Let's get the list, because someone sent me a list, and it looked like a lot of them had been installed, so hopefully
I
please
think
share.
there's probably a couple hundred that are out. So maybe we need to do a presentation in ERPS.
And if it's possible to get that list that Commissioner Terry has, I'd be grateful for that, to see where they've been installed.
Yeah, we'll share it with everyone. I don't remember when's the last time we've sent out a list, but we'll share it with everyone. Well, we'll share where we are with everyone, but most importantly, the strategy going forward. Yeah.
Yep.
Chief Ramos shared a list
That's what I-
earlier this year, I believe, or late last year,
Yeah.
about the status, but I haven't seen anything since then.
Right, yeah, I don't think we've sent anything out since then, so we'll take care of it.
Okay. And then just sort of to put a capital on the urgency, this weekend, Embry Hills at at Chambly Tucker and Alton Road had donuts being done on the parking lot, in the middle of the intersection on Sunday morning. So
Street racing.
those are things that we really want to be able to address urgently. Thank you.
Gotcha. Okay, great, thank you, Commissioner. All right, Commissioner Bolton.
I just want to remind commissioners that we have 2 reports or audits, 1 audit, 1 assessment for the animal shelter. So while we're considering the master plan, we want to make sure we include the recommendations, or at least, take time to acknowledge the recommendations from both M&J under CEO and then Director Lumpkin under his direction. There was another audit that was completed last month.
Okay, and your committee will be taking that one on?
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah, so they're supposed to come in, I believe, October to do a presentation, kind of codify what's come out of all of that and share it with us so we can use it in our plans moving forward.
Okay, all right, great. Yes, Commissioner Patrick.
Mr. Chair, I apologize for not mentioning this before, but the flock camera trailers, that was part of a request I had made last year for 5 altogether, and I see we have 2 purchased. Do we have a ETA on the 3 others? And then do we?
Yeah, I think that's what we asked Zach about. So Zach, can we get the status of the additional 3 trailer cameras?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, great. Okay, all right, so just to recap, we made some edits to the first 2 pages. TJ, if you don't mind working on those and then sending them back around for us to make sure we got captured everything. And again, that will be for FY 2026, but also for consideration in the larger CIP plan over the long term. Okay, all right, great. Seeing no other questions, comments, we'll move on to the next 3 pages. These are all what we'll call the short-term list, things that we would like to fund in this year's budget. Commissioners, let's just, instead of going through it one by one, let's just make sure that we've captured everyone's request, or if there are questions, comments, clarifications that are needed. And I'll start with committee members first. And while y'all are doing that, I'll just note that there are, I think, 2 funding items that are not included in the amount recommended because they have resolutions tied to them. And so I think what Zach and TJ have requested if the BOC, so that would be the reproductive care funding and then the community land trust. So those are two items that have resolutions before the Board of Commissioners. TJ and Zach, y'all would like those resolutions and funding to be sort of tied into one document. Is that right? That's correct. Okay. And so that's just why they're not, there's a dash for the amount recommended. It's the land trust and the reproductive care funding. Commissioner Long-Spears.
Thank you very much. Again, appreciate y'all's hard work on pulling this list together. I'm looking for the $100,000 that was requested for Leadership DeKalb. Is that in this list and I'm just not seeing it?
It's at the top, and it's actually been reduced to $50,000 which will
Okay.
be available for this year.
Okay.
Although we have discussed that in the past, there has been a multi-year contract with Leadership DeKalb. So I think the goal that CEO and I think hopefully commissioners can agree on is that Leadership DeKalb is a vital part of our community. It's an important investment, but doing it each year kind of is a little haphazard. So I think we're looking for maybe a 3-year contract. I think is what we were doing,
last time. Mm-hmm.
so that there's just funding that's assured for several years.
Okay, all right, so to make sure I'm clear, so this year you guys redlined it, slashed it from 100,000 to 50,000, which I guess makes some sense since we're halfway through the year. And then moving forward, we're looking at starting next year a multi-year request
That's
from
correct.
Leadership DeKalb. So we'll
That's
need to
correct.
certainly let them know.
That's correct.
I'll communicate that to them. Okay, great. My next question, again, may not see it on, oh, I found it. So Mosaic Health Center, we left the 100,000 for that.
It's now 200,000.
Oh, wonderful. Okay. If you could back up, Mr. Chair, under Leadership DeKalb, under amount requested, could you please change that to 100,000? And then
Yes.
amount recommended is 50,000?
Yes, thank you for catching that.
Okay, so I'm so glad to hear that. Mosaic is a great institution and really needs our support.
And Zach, you want to mention Mosaic?
And if I could, and then the CEO felt fairly strongly about ensuring that they had sufficient resources, because as we try to reduce the unnecessary calls to 911, partners like Mosaic are critical, and the healthcare that they provide, in many instances gets people to them getting assistance as opposed to waiting till it's a dire circumstance and they call
Right.
911.
Well, I'm glad to hear she supports this budget amendment. Again, great institution. My next question is back to the Community Land Trust. So that is the third from the bottom for the startup funding of $125,000. I believe it's $122,000, correct, Ms. Ganga? It's $122,000. So you want to make that minor change.
Okay.
And I don't know that I understand why, Mr. Williams, you're suggesting this not land on our budget amendments.
There's a resolution.
Yes, I believe what this, being consistent with the others, is having the board adopt a resolution and the funding at the same time.
Why? We have not done that consistently since I've been on the board. They've been separate. So I would prefer that they remain separate.
Right, and so that's the will of the board, but there's, I think, 2 or 3 items like that. And it just, from my perspective at least, it shows that there's support for doing not only the funding, but whatever the activity is. So that's my thoughts.
All right, now I appreciate you sharing that. Again, I would still like to see this on the budget amendment list. That CLT item has been active now, I believe, for 14 months. That's a long time to be on our agenda, and I don't know how much longer it's going to remain active. And again, this is the $122,000 is for a group called Ground Solutions to begin working on what a CLT would look like. And I am so delighted that the Chief Housing Officer was named, because I certainly think this should be in the Chief Housing Officer's lane. So under User Department, if you would switch that to whatever that person's department would be, housing or development, or I haven't heard anyone discuss creating a separate housing department yet. Okay, so whatever department he would be under. I guess I would make that change.
Would that be CEO?
Right. That'll be,
Okay.
that's the CEO's office. But ultimately, what we would want to do is give the CEO the opportunity to determine, whether it goes under the housing
Sure.
officer's portfolio or someplace else.
Well, we can put it TBD for now.
Yeah, that's
Until
smart, yeah.
she provides her feedback on that. That makes a lot of sense. And so again, I'm just requesting $122,000 in the mid-year budget amendments.
Okay, and I think the reason why we were leaning towards the resolution is I think in the past, we've had things that were funded in the budget, but they weren't actionable from the administration's perspective because the board had not voted to say this was the direction we wanted to go. It's similar to the reproductive care funding. It's an item that's on our agenda. I personally hope it passes, but the concern would be if we pass the funding, but we actually don't agree as the governing body that we want to do it, it just sort of sits there. And it'll, go back to the general fund, obviously, if it's not spent.
Right, that's
So
why I don't think there's a concern. I'll just go back to the general fund if it's not spent. And I will also call your attention to how we did this with the housing plan. The funding for the housing plan was passed in July of last year. The resolution was passed in August of last year. So there has been some precedent about going this route. I'll think about it. Again, this is just a recommendation out of committee today. I will certainly think about it and maybe have a conversation with Mr. Williams offline so I don't take up this entire meeting on this item.
Okay. Yeah.
But for now, if you'll please just put amount recommended to $122,000 TBD for user department, and Mr. Williams and I will get together before Tuesday's meeting. Or
Okay.
actually tomorrow. Okay, we'll have to get together quickly, sir. Thank you. Yield back to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. All right, so committee request is to add 122 to the amount recommended. Now, Zach and TJ, from y'all's perspective, if we get through the end of the year and the resolution for the land trust, studies, creation is, or the chief housing officer says it's something we want to do later, it would not be spent in other
Right,
words.
yeah, the funds wouldn't be spent under that type of scenario, but, I'll just repeat, the logic that I was articulating is that bringing these items as a package shows the position of the board, and thus, it's essentially policy at that point. To do it otherwise, there are instances where you have maybe, the cart and the horse not in sync. That's all.
Okay. Commissioner, how about this? Why don't I'll give you my commitment to keep working with you through the budget process on this funding, so that we can not lose sight of the land trust. I think that is an important part. It was in the Emory Housing Affordability Study. It was one of the things, trust fund, land trust, housing plan, et cetera. So I think it's still a priority. I think, where they're at is would like to know that the whole board is good to move forward with it. And so as a compromise, would you be okay if we held this for now, have a discussion with the chief housing officer, and hopefully there's some consensus between CEO, chief housing officer on how we want to move forward with the land trust?
So when you
Study.
say hold it for now, are you suggesting then we remove it entirely from this list? Or are you suggesting that we don't include amount recommended? I'd like to see the amount recommended $122,000. If you want to continue to have the conversation it may not vote. This board might not be in support of it tomorrow during the meeting, and we can, with your commitment, because I think you are a sponsor of that resolution, sir, a co-sponsor of the CLT resolution.
Yes,
That we
I
make
support it.
sure that we continue to keep it forefront, recognizing that it's an important tool that we need to strongly consider for, as we address our housing issues.
Yeah, I understand.
Great.
I have a comment.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, we have a newly appointed position in the CEO's office on housing. We have a housing director. And so, I just like to, let them give us their vision, their thoughts, so that I like to move with the administration or work with the administration or in concert with the administration. So when we're doing our policies, we have knowledge of what they're proposing, recommending, or what their vision is. I don't like to step out on a policy before we even discussed it with the administration. You know, I hadn't even talked to the new housing person, you know. So to move on something without talking to them when they are the ones that do the day-to-day operations, I'd like to just get their input, what they're saying, so that I could have a broad understanding of where we're heading or how we should be headed that way in our policy decisions.
Long Spears?
Thank you very much. Commissioner Davis Johnson, as you were chatting, Zach and I were also chatting quietly. So he's suggested a 30-day review of this item, so it gives the chief housing officer. Again, that was my point initially, is I certainly do want the chief housing officer to weigh in on this, as well as the CEO. I'm pointing out it has been an active item now for 14 months, I believe, and we're at some point looking forward to this either moving through the legislative process or withdrawing it, one or the other. There's no sense in continuing to kick the can down the road. But I am certainly open for 30-day deferral on it to speak with the chief housing officer.
Okay, all right, thank you, Commissioner Long Spears.
And so my question is, will that chief housing officer be coming in front of the board for discussion?
Zach?
Just to have one person talk to him does not give me any insight. So, you know, and I think it may be something for him to come before the board on as a whole and discuss.
Set up meetings with the chief housing officer and commissioners. We'll start with PEX as the committee of jurisdiction, and then set up individual meetings. I think that would be good.
Happy.
Okay, great. So, all right, so on the land trust item, that's going to be a 30-day item. I will note that for the code compliance from District 1, that was going to be a county-wide request, but you want another 30 days to come back with sort of the status of code compliance positions. There's 6 funded, but there's 6 funded and that have not been hired. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, so there's a couple of these that will be 30-day items. So Commissioner Patrick, that's one that you'd requested. Land trust will make a 30-day item. Okay,
And
yes, Commissioner.
could we have that housing, the housing is not the director, but the housing to come before the PEX committee before that 30 days?
Maybe.
Is all possible.
Yeah.
Sure. Go ahead, Zach.
Thank you. So what I would like the opportunity to do is have conversation with the chief housing officer, as well as, of course, the chair of PEX. I want to ensure when Al is comfortable with something in particular to report. In terms of an introductory meeting, you know, that probably can't happen soon enough. But, you know, he's literally been here 1 week. So, you know, I want to give him an opportunity to get acclimated, to understand a lot of the issues that we're grappling with, so that when he does have a meaningful conversation with the PEX committee, it is one where he's had the opportunity to be well informed.
Okay. Well, I think it was you asked for the 30-day deferral. I mean, if it needs to be more than 30 days, then I think it should be more than 30 days. But, you know, I wouldn't want to vote on something on housing without hearing from him. So we may want to do a 60-day, deferral to get him caught up to speed but, you know, to vote on something and we haven't even heard from him, I don't think is prudent, in my opinion.
As Chair
go
Pex, I
ahead.
was going to say, my intent is to work collaboratively with Dr. Ferguson, find out, you know, make sure he has an opportunity to get up to speed, that he's had an opportunity to review what has been proposed, and then come back and present in PEX. So that is what I intend to do, so that, you know, since that is under you know, the PEX committee. That way we are able to ask whatever questions we need to. He's had an opportunity to get up to speed, have conversations with the administration and any of the commissioners that want to have a conversation with him as well. That way when he presents, he's answering all of our questions and he's able to do so substantively. I yield back to you, Mr. Chair.
Could we compromise and say September 30th, so the end of Q3 is when we're looking for some more response back from the administration on the land trust?
Sure.
Okay.
That's a
September 30th, that
compromise.
should be enough time.
45 days.
Okay. All right, so we'll make that
With that,
a 45-day request. All right, any other categories or line items, Commissioner Long-Spears?
Yes, absolutely. Okay, so Animal Services, about midway down, the spay-neuter item for $15,000. Recommend incorporating this recommendation in revised Lifeline contract. I'm open to that, Mr. Williams, though I do have a question for you related to it. The spay-neuter piece that we've been working on, it has been very successful, and other counties, I believe, don't charge for this. So if we could look, as we're extending Lifeline's contract, at perhaps just waiving this fee entirely moving forward, starting 2026.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Just a
so-
consideration.
Yeah.
Okay, so we do have an amendment to the Lifeline contract in the Ops Committee, and so the goal would be to add this in 15,000 for the next 3 months, but then a
Starting next
newer,
year.
a renewal, whatever, would include either eliminating that fee. or-
Please. Yeah,
or
other jurisdictions
subsidizing it.
around us don't charge. So it would be ideal if we at least mirrored
Okay.
what they do. My
Okay.
next question is for the Animal Services Litter Registry Public Education Campaign. Amount requested was $200,000. It looks like it was kicked back to $50,000. Could you tell me why?
Yes, what we've done in a number of these items is simply prorated. The anticipation is that in the '26 budget, for those activities we want to continue, we would fund, you know, on an annual basis. But looking at $200,000, thinking that was for a year's allocation, what we simply did is said, well, there's a quarter of the year left approximately, let's make it a quarter of the allocation. So we simply prorated that. There's a number of these, that's what we've done.
Okay, well, there's more than a quarter of a year left, so could we then just compromise, in the spirit of compromise today, $65,000 for that one?
Does that work for y'all?
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Committee member
And-
Johnson? Okay, all right, we'll make that 65.
Then my next comment on that is, and again, this relates to the budget, but I think more in the execution, and this might be better offline, Mr. Williams, but I would be interested to learn that if this is something that we put into the Lifeline's contract, how will they work with animal enforcement on this? Because it really is going to take both sides of animal services enforcement plus our vendor to tackle this. Again, our enforcement officers are going out, they're in a position to educate neighbors and community members about this new ordinance that will be in effect later this year. So we need to just make sure we know up front that we're gonna have to loop in enforcement. Great.
Okay.
And my last question is under the Central DeKalb Senior Center of $40,000. You have a prorate to $20,000 taken from current budget and no amount recommended.
TJ?
Right, so we spoke with Director Scott earlier, and we believe that there's funding available within that cost center. So we wouldn't be increasing the budget, that's why the number is 0, the recommendation, but we are in support of having 20,000 allocated from the existing budget for those positions or for that programming.
So she reached out to me to have this included because she did not have the money in her budget. So when you say cost center, if that's under human services umbrella, so you
Broadly.
can pull it from somewhere else to
Right.
give it to her, I just don't want to take any of her existing money
Right.
that has already been committed and then her have to lose doing something else in order to fill the gap. Does that
So
make sense?
What we were looking at, it does make sense.
Okay.
Was their salary savings so far this year? I believe, it appears that they've had some vacant positions, so that we'd be able to, reallocate funding, savings from that funding to these programs. And then we also had the conversation with Director Scott that if there is any issue throughout the rest of the year that they come up short, that then we will revisit that, and see about another amendment to make up any shortfall that they have.
Right. But we're looking broadly at human services, not just that
Okay.
business unit.
Okay, so to be crystal clear here, she needed the additional dollars to pay for these items. You're looking at the cost center, thinking there are some opportunities with unspent dollars related to employees. If not, though, you are committing to fill whatever gaps that she might have between now and the end of the year. Is that
Right.
correct?
So, and we looked at it both ways. We looked at it both at the department level, where we're projecting that they will have a surplus about $400,000 by the end of the year, as well as at the cost center level, where we saw that there is some potential salary savings due to vacant positions within that specific cost center for the Central DeKalb Senior Center.
And does each senior center have a cost center? Is that how you have it structured? Or is it senior centers as a cost center and a fleet, another one, however they handle it?
There are individual cost centers for
Okay.
multiple of the senior centers. I'm not sure that every single one has a single individual cost center, but in their case, they do.
Okay.
Okay, so we're looking for an internal budget amendment.
Right.
Okay, under human services. Okay, and so we would like to just keep this line item in what the committee recommendation is, so it's sort of out there as an approved, and that way you kind of have our thinking on it, and then that can take place relatively soon after the vote.
Right. And what we've done in the past is we've had sort of two schedules as part of the agenda item. One is the actual increases to budgets, and the other is just sort of the internal
Okay.
reallocations within budgets.
Gotcha. Okay, great, thank you. Okay.
Could we just provide a little language in this spreadsheet that speaks to what we've agreed on, so it's in writing?
TJ, are you saying that you're gonna, one of the other schedules will capture what we're saying here?
Correct, that's what we've done in the past, and we could do that again. So I think what we discussed prior to this meeting is that based on the recommendation from the committee, we're gonna have a substitute agenda item, so that could be part of the agenda item.
Okay, all right, that would work. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Yield back to you, sir.
All right, Commissioner Johnson, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have one correction. One of my line items for beautification, the requested amount was 250,000, and then the recommended was lowered to the 100,000, which I'm fine with, but the recommended amount, if we could correct the record for that.
Okay, the request was 250,
Correct.
and Zach, you just want to just speak generally about the strategy here. There's a larger strategy at play, but we would like to have funds available if there's additional support needed for
For the-
encampment cleanups.
For beautification and for the community
Right,
development.
so
if
I'm
you
looking
speak
at,
to those.
right, so, and it's been reduced to 80,000, correct?
You're talking about the 100,000 one.
Oh, the 100.
For beautification.
Yeah, I requested 250,000 for both of those line
Okay,
items.
got it.
I'm fine with the reduction, but if you want to just explain.
Right. So, couple things. One, on the reduction, with where we have done reductions, the thinking is to prorate wherever appropriate. But we are also, much like the flock camera, the CEO has tasked us with coming up with a much more comprehensive cleanup strategy. And the thinking would be, whatever funding we allocate here would be part of an overall community cleanup strategy that would not only involve these sort of things, but we're, grappling with tires and a lot of other things. So we want to be able to bring forward, a more holistic strategy.
Understood, thank you for that. And to speak on the item before that, the community development, my request was the 250,000. Understand they're reducing to the 80,000, just wanted to mention, one of the main reasons I wanted to make the request is so that I believe our community development department should be getting funding from the general fund and not solely funded from federal grant money. So I would like to see us consider that in the 26 budget as well, continuing some type of funding from general fund because they have less restrictions and they can provide more services when it's not as restricted.
You're absolutely correct. And over the last few years, we began providing some supplementation of their federal funding with general fund, but I hear you. And this 80,000 is simply prorated, as we said.
Understood. Thank you. I yield.
Okay. All right. Commissioners, any other questions, comments, clarifications? Yes, sir. Commissioner Patrick.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is regarding the code enforcement officers, which I think was on the other page here. The request was originally for 10 officers, and the idea being is 2 dedicated to each district, each of the 5 general districts.
Yes.
And then they build familiarity with the area, and they can report on anything from, potholes to tall trees, other code enforcement issues, but they're also sort of the backup eyes, really, of the administration going through and just making sure that everything is looking nice and working. There's no problems. There's no debris that's fallen that hasn't been captured yet or picked up through the normal process. So just wanted to get that clarification. In 30 days, you'll be able to come back with the funding for the additional, was it 4 officers or 6 officers?
Right. So the thinking is that we will, one, move as quickly as possible to get the 6 vacant positions filled. The thinking was for the other 4, in all likelihood, that would be a recommendation for the 26 budget. But what we would like to do is part of that, and there may be increased requests for code enforcement officers, but to provide a strategy as to here is what we're funding, that we have really thought through, what would these folks do? How does that look? Whether if it's something like you've described or some other proactive approach, but we recognize that we need to be more proactive. So what we're looking to do is let's get the 6 vacant positions filled, and then let's come back with a proactive strategy that looks at code enforcement and cleaning up at the same time.
If I may follow up.
Yes.
So last year during our mid-year budget discussions, I had put forward the idea of see-click fix or some other type of vendor that the residents can literally just take a picture of it, it geo-tracks it, it'll send it to the administration, it sends it to the district commissioners. Where are we on that? Is there a look to maybe integrate that with 311?
Those are the types of conversations that we're having, whether it's that tool or some other one, and integrating with an updated website too.
Okay. And then is there a time frame? Because respectfully, it's been a year since we.
Well, I'm just going to
first
say
brought this
for
up.
all of that, probably by the end of this calendar year.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Patrick. And I do support what you're putting out as the vision because, one, code compliance officers can't be everywhere, but citizens are. And so that actually helps with identifying the problems as they come up. And then I think, to your point, what you're really looking for is we have code compliance that works countywide, unincorporated county, but you're looking for sort of an embed in each district so that there's sort of a persistent, proactive code compliance approach in districts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Versus a sort of a reactionary, someone calls in a complaint, and then it eventually works its way through the process.
Okay. So Zach, so we have 30 days. Is that enough time to begin to at least update on where the filling the 6 positions
so.
are? And then it sounds like by the end of the year, you might have more on the grander strategy with the technology, see-click fix, et cetera.
Right, absolutely, yeah. So, and that's a sequence I would see. But also what maybe we'll work with PEX on this too, because maybe we need to do a better job of sharing what we do proactively, because there are a number of task forces who, are constantly monitoring and going after different areas that we need to be able to share. Additionally, between now and the end of the year, there may be policy recommendations dealing with code enforcement that will help put more teeth, for lack of a better word, in some of what we're doing.
Mr. Chair, if I could also follow up, having conversations with one of my residents in the Tucker area who works for a sanitation agency outside of DeKalb. He has suggested that that jurisdiction has cameras on all of their garbage trucks, but they also have AI that comes back and looks for things that are out of character. So if there's a pothole, if there's graffiti in an area, if there are trees down, is there a possibility that we could get some conversation started in that direction as well? Because
Absolutely.
However large our sanitation fleet is, it virtually covers almost every aspect of the county, and that would be almost, an easy lift.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're on every street once a week.
That's
Absolutely.
correct, yeah.
Yep, okay, great. All right, so we'll stay on that, Commissioner Patrick, because I think that's really important. Okay, Commissioner Johnson, follow-ups.
I actually wanted to weigh in on that conversation. I support the idea of the C-click fix. I've seen it in a jurisdiction that I'm working in, and I think having those additional embedded in the districts would really go in hand with something like a C-click fix, because you're gonna see a lot of input coming in for the residents, from the residents, and having people who can help manage and make sure things are getting addressed on top of the duties of our existing employees. I think it will help the program go smooth. So I just wanted to speak out in support of that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it.
Yep. All right, any other questions, comments, clarifications?
I just have, if
Yes,
I
go ahead,
could,
Commissioner
Mr.
Messiah.
Chair, related to item on page, both page 2 and then, let's see, page 4, just for trying to get further understanding. They're both the last item, because I am seeing the request to develop a new facility at Midway Park. So there's a $15 million request for that. And then additionally, on the bottom of page 4, there is a request for renovations and a master plan for $255,000. So I was just trying to understand, is it, renovations and a master plan and then building another facility? I'm just a little confused because
Okay.
it says a new facility and it says renovations at 255. So I'm just trying to
Okay.
understand that.
Commissioner Bolton, this was your request?
Yes, great question. And so in conversation with Parks, it was indicated that $50,000 was what was needed in order to start working toward the master plan. However, there are some immediate needs in the amount of about $200,000 that we want to start working toward sooner rather than later, before the end of the year. And so that master plan would help us to develop a strategy to get a new facility, which is where the $15 million request, estimated request, has come from.
Okay, and so the request is to fund the building of a new facility before we get the plan for it and get done with the repairs that are needed presently?
So the first 2 pages are long-term. Yep, so that's gonna go into the CIP larger request. And so, yeah, but I think the idea, order operations, is the master plan needs to be done first.
Yes.
And then we'll actually know how much
Okay.
the new improvements would be.
All right, just trying to understand and see it. Thank you. I'll get back to you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Okay, great.
And,
Yeah, go ahead,
and since it
Commissioner
was
Bolton.
mentioned before, in ERPS, we are scheduled for an update for the flock cameras August 26th.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, we'll make sure everyone knows about that. All right, okay, so I think that's it for our discussions. There is one item that came up since the ERPS committee last meeting, and that was the medical examiner. Director Lovelace came to the committee and presented out a very sort of more comprehensive strategy of how they fit into the opioid crisis response effort. And so, Madam Chair did ask the medical examiner to provide sort of more details in what she was asking for that could support the opioid response, that also would be related to the opioid trust fund use. And so, Director Lovelace, you have a presentation today to speak on your $380,000 request.
It was not March the 10th, it was,
Oh, we can hear you, Marita.
okay, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Director Lovelace.
Yes, so in consideration for opioid opioid settlement funds, there are several ways that we could utilize some of those funds to improve the operations of our office and help us, to help us respond to the many cases that we have. I provided some very rough numbers just overall to give everyone an idea of where we are. So in the last decade, from 2015 to 2024, the county's population increased by about 8% overall. Our caseload increased by 30% overall, but our drug-related deaths increased by 116%. So a large percentage of the increase in our caseload is directly related to the opioid crisis and the rise in fentanyl specifically. So we have several ways that we could utilize funding depending on the committee's prerogative. One of the ways would be our fellowship program. We've spent a lot of time already speaking about our fellowship program. There is a massive shortage of board-certified medical examiners, doctors in this country. And so this will help in training the next generation of doctors. Doctors tend to stay where they train, in the general vicinity where they train. So this gives us a direct pipeline to new talent as they graduate from school and finish their residency and fellowships. We would basically have our pick of the litter. We already have our first fellow. We were able to secure our accreditation through the Accreditation Council very quickly. It can take sometimes 2 years. We did it in 6 months. And so we were able to secure it very, very quickly, working with Morehouse School of Medicine. And so we've already secured our first fellow in an off-match year, so he will start with us July 1st of next year. The salary for that position is $150,000 all-inclusive, and that includes not just the fellows' compensation, but the benefits package, as well as money for training and continuing education, travel to conferences, those kind of things. So that's our most important funding priority because it kills two birds with one stone. So fellows have to do, by training standards, 200 exams a year. So that would help us tremendously in our caseload by having an extra set of hands working on that many cases. They obviously work under close supervision of our experienced and board-certified doctors, but they would handle 200 cases a year, so that would help us tremendously. Our toxicology service, we contract with NMS, and I believe I said at the IRPS committee, we get our tox back in 2 weeks. That's best case scenario. Obviously, I misspoke a little. It actually usually takes between 2 and 4. Especially if we have to do extended testing, if we find a novel substance, for example, or if the first screen, for whatever reason, comes back negative, but we really do think that there's something there and we may need to check for other substances that are not part of the initial panel. We may have to request an additional service. Panels are a little over $400 a piece for the comprehensive panel. So at, several hundred of those a year, it adds up very quickly. Dr. Gowett and Forensic Medicine Associates is our contracted provider for our medical examiner services, and the money for tox panels is built into his contract, but we already have had 2 students express interest in the fellowship for the next cycle beginning in 2027. So if we were to redirect opioid settlement monies to cover toxicology for the next couple of years, then Dr. Gowett's contract could be relieved of that burden, and then they could save up a little money to help cover another fellow's salary moving forward. So it would be just a shifting of some funds. The expanded panel is also very useful because we can catch, again, novel substances. So it's rare, but we'll see xylazine every now and then or some random, very trendy drug, and it will give us some indication of where things are in our screens and making sure that we're checking for substances that might not otherwise be caught. So the expanded panel, while way more expensive, is worth it, in our opinion, when we're trying to diagnose cause and manner and then obviously keep abreast of emerging drug trends. And then other positions, I did include the public database that we would like to do, but that funding has been secured for 2 years, and it is a relatively small amount. It's only $15,000 per year, and we actually just met with our current case management system vendor and have discussed possibilities of him building that into our current system at a nominal fee. So we could potentially not utilize opioid settlement money for that because we've explored other options to try to keep that public-facing dashboard going beyond our grant cycle. And the other 2 positions that would probably be the most useful for us would be another investigator, just like with the physicians, obviously keeping our staff, keeping their caseloads even and not burdening our existing staff. with high caseloads is always of paramount importance. So as our caseload increases year over year, we will just need more investigators. They respond 24/7, 365, and they're working a couple of hundred cases a year minimum each. And so as our caseload increases, we will eventually need another death investigator. There is no way around that. And then something that's pretty innovative for a medical examiner's office, there are only a handful of medical examiner's offices in the country that we've been able to identify that are using a social worker on staff. So that's a more innovative approach, and we have just been tossing that idea around, so I wanted to put it before you for your consideration. But social workers obviously have a much different approach than investigators or law enforcement when they speak with families. I worked in child welfare for several years, and it's a very, very different world. You know, they work together, but it's a very different world. And so sometimes social workers in that approach can build rapport with a family that it may be more difficult for death investigators or law enforcement officers, and they're able to get information that families might not be as comfortable sharing with a law enforcement officer or a death investigator. We could also utilize them for many, many different services in our office. They could certainly work with us on our child deaths, regardless of the cause of death there, but liaison with the Department of Family and Children Services if necessary. There's many, many ways that we could utilize a social worker, but it's a novel approach and innovative, and that's something our office is always interested in, is looking at where else can we innovate and where can we think outside the box that would, you know, improve our investigations and improve services to our families.
Okay, great. Thank you, Director Lovelace. Committee members, any questions or comments on this request? Okay. Commissioner Long-Spears, any? Okay. Commissioners, any questions, comments?
I'll just say that I like everything I heard.
Okay.
I appreciate the value of that, and I think if that helps with the overall health of our population, I think that's a good goal. $400,000 to keep our people alive longer and be able to address the concerns that are happening in the communities. That's a down payment on much better things.
I appreciate you putting something together quickly, because we, you know, asked if you would and just, you know, break down the need and where the funds particularly would go to, and you did that pretty expeditiously, so I appreciate that.
I have excellent staff.
Well, there you go.
I'm very lucky.
And love, you know, this particular use of the settlement, opiate settlement funds as well. I think it goes to, you know, addressing preventiveness and then also after death and just being able to be full circle in the use of those funds. So I appreciate that. I yield back to you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you, Director Lovelace, for just, and Madam Chair Bolton, for just, you know, sort of updating us on everything that your office does in relation to responding to the opioid crisis. And, you know, when you look at those death stats, you know, year in, year out, and you see those trends, you know, what we want to see those trends go in the other direction. And so it was great for me because I didn't fully understand how after a death there actually is more work to be done through your office, particularly
Yes.
investigatory, the paneling, and then the social worker to me makes a lot of sense, because then you're sort of getting at the social determinants of health and really honing in on, I think, the hot spots that you identified and working with all the other partners that are responding. So thank you for that. And yes, Commissioner Bolton.
I just want to reiterate too, and you mentioned it, but just so we can understand the scope of, or the magnitude of what this actually does, there is a national workforce shortage when it comes to pathologists. So not only does this help us meet the need of what we have to do in the county, but it's actually setting the standard nationally for what ME's offices can do to help affect the shortage, but we're doing it in collaboration with our partners locally. So the impact and the standard that we're setting, hopefully, is something that others will start to do. And so, like always, DeKalb County will be the preeminent county and department to start doing these things, and then everyone else will follow and will impact the shortage more broadly.
Yes, working with Morehouse is frankly a dream come true. So not only do they have the national reputation, but with them being an HBCU, this is the first forensic fellowship program with an HBCU in the country. And as in most areas of medicine, the African-American community is disproportionately not represented among the medical examiner community. And that matters. You know, when we're working with our family and with our community, it matters. So we were just over the moon when we started working with Morehouse. We're very lucky to have them.
Wonderful. Okay, great. All right, thank you, Director Lovelace, for your
Thank
time
you. I
today.
appreciate your time.
Really appreciate it. All right, and Commissioners, one last thing I'll just mention. First, I want to thank CO Williams and TJ and Madam CEO for continuing to support the efforts that I think we're all working on related to youth violence prevention and youth programming. And so you'll see here in the second line item is the Human Services Department will receive $350,000, $50,000 per district. This will go to the Human Services budget, but with guidance from each commissioners on specific programs that y'all would like to see through that department. And just as a reminder, TJ, through the budget office, has requested that any of these we'll just call them micro appropriations be completed before, is it the first week in November, TJ? Okay, so these are funds that were really important. They're for Youth Commission, Youth Violence Prevention, Youth Programming that we hopefully want to activate right away. So hopefully upon approval of this budget, we all can get to work working with Director Scott in identifying the important programs there that we can fund immediately and get active. I think it's 2 months is what we're, right? What was it? Is it?
It was actually the second meeting in October.
Second meeting, okay, good. All right, so public service announcement, and this is for all appropriations, operational.
Correct. That was for the reserve for appropriations, as well as this funding for the human services.
Okay, great. All right, so commissioners, you got about 2 months to finish out any appropriations through district reserves or youth violence prevention, youth programming. So start working on that. Okay, very good. All right, so committee members, we have our budget amendment request spreadsheet. We've made some edits to it that TJ has followed along. So I'll open the floor for a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay. Seeing no
Motion
further
to approve the amended.
The amended, yes.
The amended, yes. Okay, motion and second. All in favor, chance say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye, motion carries. All right, so TJ, will you be able to get all this ready for tomorrow for board consideration?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. All right, thank you all so much for your time over the last several days. I know it's been very busy and a lot going on, so appreciate y'all making time for this. Okay, so commissioners, we had one last presentation, and that is from Director Campbell from the Office of Independent Internal Audit. And this is something that we tried to do at the last committee meeting, but we ran out of time. So Director Campbell, do you want to sit in that first chair right there? Y'all should have the PowerPoint in front of you. And this is the non-audit review of delinquent water billing data. It is from July 22nd. So we'll turn the floor over to Director Campbell to go through the presentation. And if anyone needs to leave, go ahead and take care of that now. All right, welcome.
All right, test it.
Yeah, there you go. You get the clicker, I think, there too. There you go.
All right, good afternoon, everyone.
Yes, good afternoon now.
All right, so the purpose of this presentation is really it started off at the request of the FAB committee as a result of the May 20th request for data on water delinquency, and also the presentation made by the administration. Now, the purpose of this non-audit review was essentially to examine the presentation made by the administration, look at the request itself as well, considering within the context what was requested, what was presented by the administration, and looking really to analyze the data to see, okay, is this data sufficiently accurate to be able to make proper management decisions and strategies as it relates to collection strategies. Now, so we started off with the data that was presented on May 20th. That included 4 customer types: owners, tenants, condominiums, apartments, and that billing data was as of May 13th, even though the presentation was made on May 20th. But it's important to point out here that it included 4 customer types because that is what was requested by the commissioners. So that is why that presentation was limited to just 4 customer types. Now, subsequent to that, I smell something burning. Yeah, the smoke in the hallway, I believe.
Do we have a fire marshal available? Smell, yeah, it smells like electronic something. Oh, is the heat turning on?
I was gonna say, the heat hasn't kicked on in months, you know, that could be the dust of the vents kicking on, that smell.
Okay, just, we're gonna pause here for a minute, make sure we're all good. Might have been the heat. It was cold in here for a minute, so. All right, for folks watching, we're just going to take a quick minute to make sure we're not anything else going on. It does kind of smell like the heat element things have turned on.
I don't know. Outside is pretty warm.
All right. Should we open the door? Should we prop open those 2 doors? Can't smell it out there? Okay. Can you just open those doors? Okay, all right, we're gonna keep moving. We're gonna keep those doors open just for ventilation. So Director Campbell, go and keep going through your presentation,
Of course.
if you don't mind.
All right, so as I was mentioning, the May 20th presentation focused on 4 customer types at the request of the commissioners. Since then, we had requested all the supporting documentation, essentially trying to look at the support, the details that went into that PowerPoint slide that was made on May 20th. In addition to that, given that so much time had passed, we also requested data as of June, and then also as of July 2025 as well. Now, I'll walk through the observations made on the 20th presentation, and also looking at the results of the comparative analysis that we did with the other time periods as well. So just to recap, on May 20th, we were presented with with the 4 customer accounts. Again, these were the accounts that were requested by the commissioners. I believe at the time, the presentation indicated that there was $104 million worth of delinquent water bills cutting across 111,000 customers of various types. Now, based on our analysis, we determined that of that $104 million initially, that about approximately $10 million, or 9%, of those bills were actually flagged as current. So once we actually looked at the supporting details, we realized that about $10 million, as per that report, actually fell within the category of current, not yet due, so therefore should not have been a part of the delinquent calculations. So therefore, the true delinquent amount was $94.9 million. The other things we recognized was that, in terms of the
Director
aging
Campbell,
breakdown.
just to make sure we're following along, if there's commissioners have questions to clarify any of the slides, just feel free to raise your hand. Did you have a question, Commissioner Bolton?
I did. How many accounts does that amount to that were actually current, that nearly 10 million?
That is a good question. Let me see if it comes up later on a later slide. If not, that is something I could get to you afterwards. I don't believe I have that information within the slide, but it is something I can get to you afterwards.
Okay. All right, keep going.
All right, so in terms of the agent breakdown, we were able to calculate across various agent bands to look at exactly how long some of the amounts have been owing, and we recognize that between a year or less, that 30% of the amounts were accrued within that time period. 1 to 2 years accounted for 19% of the delinquencies, and within 2 to 4 years, the other 22% of the delinquent bills. Now, approximately 81% of delinquencies were over 90 days overdue. And 48% delinquencies were overdue for a period of 2 years or less. Now, one of the things we looked at again, this, just to clarify, this probably fell outside of the scope of what the administration was presenting on May 20th. But we want, given that our understanding was that one of the main focuses of understanding the amount of delinquent bills was to really, inform the committee as to making accurate management decisions and collection strategies. We decided to examine the information closely and compared it to the 2023 ACFR that estimated that there was approximately $214 million worth of delinquencies. So you must be asking the question, what was missing, what was not included in the May 20th presentation. For one, the May 20th presentation only included active accounts. So it did not include information owed by inactive accounts, or the accounts that have been closed, but where the customer still owed the county funds. It also did not include all account types, and again, this ties back to what was requested to be presented by the Board of Commissioners, but in reality, there are about 25 different account types, each having various levels of delinquent bills. The other area was that they're, looking closely at the supporting data, we recognized that there were, certain information that was not included. Like, for example, the number of delinquencies, the activities that were taken, to actually address certain delinquencies, as well in terms of the data quality issues, such as missing zip codes, addresses, frequent misspellings of certain key cities. Like, for example, we found that Atlanta was spelled 10 different ways. Blank fields, missing customer names, for example. Then again, we have enforcement gaps that the underlying supporting documentation at the time for the, that was used to prepare the May 20th presentation identified 135 liens. However, none of those accounts had any monies due or owing based on the data that was provided, which indicated that there should not have been a lien on them in the first place. However, at the same time, that there were no recorded enforcement actions cited for the accounts that actually had amounts owing.
And when you say enforcement action, you mean
so there was no property liens identified against. Okay. So the only property liens that were identified related to accounts that actually, as per the report, did not owe anything at all at that point in time.
Okay, so you're saying it's possible that there's 135 liens that have been paid?
No. So what I'm saying is that the underlying report identified how many current property liens there are. Okay. That essentially is usually recorded in pursuit of, the collection of delinquent amounts. But however, based on the detailed spreadsheet that give the detailed breakdown per customer name and customer account, those accounts that had a lien assigned to them actually, as per that source document actually did not owe anything at all over the past, 7 years.
Okay.
So-
So you
so-
think
yes,
they're
yes, yeah.
legacy liens, they're not
Yes.
current?
Well, I mean, that is a possibility, but for us, again, one of the purposes of this exercise was not necessarily to come to a conclusion as to the rational reason for certain of the discrepancies observed, but to point out that, the reports as they are right now, there do exist certain data quality issues that would impact the quality of the data, and therefore the ability to be able to make accurate management
Okay.
decisions.
Zach, would it be possible just to get more information on these 135 liens and sort of the status and the amounts owed and et cetera?
Well, if I may, I wanted to interject that, as we go along and look at the other months, some of the data changed, over time as we looked at the June and the July presentation. And I'll go into a bit more in terms of what the administration is doing now to try to improve the data quality as well.
Okay, great, thank you.
But right now, I'm just focused on what was observed based on the May 2025 report, and then what took place subsequent to that, given that that was the original request that came before my office. The other discrepancy that we noted was that the report highlighted that there were approximately 88,000 owner accounts, for example. But however, when we examined the actual support and documentation, it actually totaled approximately 177,000 customer accounts. And that information, like I said, that is what was presented on the report at the time. It does not necessarily mean that the 177 is the actual owner account, but it does indicate that there were issues with the report itself. The other thing to keep in mind, and this isn't an issue or a finding, it's just something to keep in mind, that when we look at the accounts for condominiums and for apartments, we have to keep in mind that while the other account types look at specific residents, those accounts are usually bulk accounts. So even though like, for example, if you look here at the condominium, the number of accounts is, like 236. However, the amount owed is 25 million. That explains that what you're really looking at is a consolidation of a number of individual accounts that fall within that the condominium account. So typically, it is the condominium or the apartment owners that are responsible for paying the water bill. But that may account for the difference there as well. Alrighty, so overall, based on that, based on the discrepancies noted, we decided to request additional more recent data for the month of June and July, and we obtained the information for June and realized that there were similar discrepancies with the data, with missing fields, errors, missing addresses, other discrepancies with the account or customer accounts, similar to what we observed with the May 20th. So we went on to ask for information for the month of July, and a few things were observed. There were similar discrepancies. However, the report that was received from July was more a summary agent report that did not necessarily include the breakdown of the individual accounts that made up that summary account. So I just wanted to point out that limitation, and I did something that the finance department at the time was working to provide us with the source data with the account details.
Okay, question, Commissioner Bolton?
With the data quality issues, did these appear to be just a few outliers, or was it more frequent and consistent in that?
It was not the majority of the account, but from an auditing perspective, once we start to realize these discrepancies in the data, then we have to question the entire set. Even those that appear accurate, the question has to be, okay, is what is causing the discrepancies in the report? Can this report be relied upon? So it certainly wasn't the majority of the fields that, were blank, but one of the typical steps once before we begin analyzing data is to say, okay, are all the fields complete? Does everything seem consistent? Is there anything that seems off? Because that speaks directly to the quality of the data itself.
Okay.
Now, so based on the July agent report, the difference with this account with this report is that it included inactive, active, final, and other category. And just for clarification, active account, are accounts that are open and currently billed for water services. Final accounts are those that are closed by the customer, but in the process of a final meter reading and a final billing before it becomes inactive. And of course, inactive is self-explanatory. It relates to accounts that are fully closed with no current billing or water service. Now, looking at this total picture, in terms of the delinquent amounts, the total there, as you can see, was $255 million. 120 relates to active accounts at the time, 133 for inactive accounts, but amounts still owed to the county. And final, 1.2 million. So as you can see, by taking into consideration all the account types and the various statuses, whether it be active or inactive, and final, the total delinquent amount was approximately 2.6 times greater than the amount for May 20th. But again, I just wanted to remind that based on discussions with the administration, their understanding was that they were required to present on just the 4. The 4 accounts plus just the active, those accounts that have active status as well.
Okay.
All right, so the agent breakdown analysis, again, $74 million or 30% of the delinquent amounts were less than 2 years. 2 to 4 years accounted for $54 million, 20%, and the remainder 50% was more than 4 years owed.
Okay, and what's that last line you have written there?
It basically says that half of the delinquent balances were more than 4 years old, overdue indicating long-term collection challenges. Also potential, again, I'm not a lawyer, but, I believe that, once it goes above 4 years, there are difficulties in terms of, suing the customers to collect it. Mm-hmm. However, there is no limitation on property lien, for example. So if the county were to take on a property lien on the, in terms of trying to collect those funds, then that would not be subjected to the 4-year limit.
Okay, and since you're not a lawyer, let me ask
Yes.
our lawyer. So I think the law
Wise
department
choice.
is researching this particular issue. Mr. Linkus?
Yes, sir. We are currently looking into this issue and how it all breaks down.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, good.
All right, in terms of the breakdown by customer type, as you can see here, the owner, condominiums, and tenants are in the top, top 3. Commercial accounts and apartments round out the top 5. So commercial accounts owe approximately 14 million. Apartments, 10 million. Tenants, 19. Condominiums, 24, and owner, 36. And again, this is just looking just at active accounts. For the inactive, the total owed by tenants was 87,000. Owners, 28,000. Again, commercial accounts land at number 3 for 6.5 million. Apartments, 5.9 million, and commercial tenants, 2.2.
Can you go back to that last slide?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, very good. So, Zach, just something for maybe just to come back on later. When it comes to the Emory accounts, I think I had heard discussion about sort of how they do their water recycling program. So I think y'all are researching that, I guess, between the water and the sewer fees, is that right?
Right, so I think the Emory account is probably tied to ongoing discussions that go back almost a decade by now, related to a water hub that they implemented and certain charges related to that. But that is still something that needs to be resolved.
Okay. And then for commercial owner, is that just a broad category? Is that an actual name?
No, that is actual, title name for that category, but it is a broad.
Okay, so it's
category
multiple
that-
commercial accounts.
Yes.
And then you have the DeKalb County Schools. So presumably we're also talking with the schools about that one, Zach?
Yes, I will confirm that, but I know we have in the past.
Okay. And then Miles Properties, is that an apartment complex? We assume? Director McNabb is providing information.
So, essentially, what Dr. Manna pointed out was that this is just a general category, a general bucket, for the purposes of the ACFOR, that's it. So it has a number of miscellaneous properties and accounts built into that don't necessarily fall under the other categories.
Okay, and then apartments, there's 10 millions in apartments. And then commercial accounts presumably are business accounts.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And again, that was just for the accounts that have an active status. For inactive accounts, we do have delinquent amounts. Tenants are at $87 million, owners 28 million, commercial accounts 6.5, and apartments approximately $6 million that are owed. So these are folks where customers where their accounts have been closed out and there's no active service. However, funds are still due to the county.
Okay, and I guess, and Zach, maybe I don't know what y'all's thinking is on this. So if you have a tenant account that's delinquent but is also inactive, presumably they might have moved out of the county. And so I guess maybe that's just something that we need to understand moving forward, how the finance department, the billing office treats tenant accounts, and then how we communicate that with the landlord, who I guess ultimately is the owner of the property. Because it appeared that we had been receiving some emails where an owner of a house, they were renting to someone for a few years, and they didn't realize the tenant wasn't paying the water bill, and then they got the disconnection notice, and then the water was cut off, and the landlord said, well, that's not my account. So is there something that y'all are thinking about, how there's some communication between tenant and landlord on an ongoing basis, so these things don't get accrued for months, if not years, in the future?
Well, we've certainly had conversation on it, Commissioner.
Oh, and Director McNabb, can she chime in?
Sure.
Come on, sit right here, Director McNabb, or you're right there. Thank you for being here.
The owner and tenant accounts, the owners do not have any liability for the tenant. And what happened most recently, just by way of example, is we had a tenant that finalized their account because they were moving out, and an owner that wanted the water turned on for the subsequent tenant. We cannot turn that water on without an owner of the account. The tenant had not signed up for an account, had not brought their documentation in to establish an account. We can't turn it on. The owner wanted it turned on, so the owner had to apply for an account. Because we cannot go back against the owner for anything that was in the tenant's name to begin with. But owners do set up accounts in between the tenants, and they are responsible for those accounts.
Gotcha.
Neither tenant is responsible for that.
Okay. All right, thank you for clarifying. Commissioner Bolden?
On the inactive account, on this slide right here, do we know when, for example, apartment buildings, when they filed for bankruptcy, in order for us to know how and when to reconcile those accounts, or are those included on here?
A bankruptcy court would notify us if somebody declared bankruptcy, and it just depends on whether it gets to the right person as to whether we know or not. But the I don't think we've had a bankruptcy notice recently about any apartments.
Okay.
What about when they get sold? Because all these apartments get sold a lot. Do we?
We have liens on them.
Okay.
Okay, so the 135 liens, are those most likely commercial?
I can't assure you that the 135 liens from our Encuesta system is accurate. We're having significant problems with that system.
Okay.
Evidently, in the city of Atlanta is the only person we know else that uses that system.
Okay,
We've been extremely disappointed.
I understand.
We didn't
Okay.
pick it. The team that's here now didn't pick it.
Okay, I know. That's fine.
And I think there are routine problems with utility systems managing inactive accounts and significantly past due accounts, because that's not the way utilities operate.
Mm-hmm.
You
Okay,
know, they disconnect after a month or 2 months,
understand.
depending. And so this all has arisen since the end of 2016, when the administration implemented a moratorium. And when people aren't disconnected, they don't pay their bills.
Understand. Yeah, that makes sense. And so but in theory, if an apartment complex owes $500,000 on a water bill and they sell to another company, they cannot get new service unless the previous bill is paid.
State law says that we cannot withhold service from a new owner.
Okay, but so if there's a lien though on that property,
If
the
they're
new owner
lien,
has to pay it.
They will not be able to settle unless the new owner agrees to have the lien travel with the purchase.
Okay,
Okay, and so generally, most purchasers want all liens that have anything to do with the property they're buying, they want them all liquidated.
understood. Okay, so basically what that means is that there's any apartment or commercial property, as an example, that has a delinquent bill, we need to make sure there is a lien on that property, because if it gets sold without the lien, then we're missing the opportunity to.
Exactly.
Okay. All right, so that's something we're working on?
That's something that, as far as I know, we've got liens on all of them.
On all of them? Okay.
Yeah. I
Okay,
mean, on
so-
all the ones that have past due balances, yeah.
Okay, all right, I think that's,
We have a revenue protection group division, unit, excuse me, I'm gonna call it a unit.
okay,
That's what they specialize in, is
okay.
putting liens
Okay,
and
so
following up on them.
all right, so we'll plan to just get more information on the liens that exist currently at a future meeting. Okay. Director Campbell, keep going.
So, in conclusion, I mean, one of the general observations that we have made just by looking at the data across the various time periods is that there are, data quality issues with the reporting. It doesn't necessarily mean that there are issues with the underlying data within the system itself. It may be a reporting issue in terms of how those reports were crafted or engineered to actually extract the data. But nonetheless, the reports as presented, we would advise caution in terms of the accuracy of those reports. I'm sure they probably fall within the general, estimates here that you're seeing in terms of amounts owed. But from an auditing perspective, it would be very difficult to say definitively that these figures are accurate, the amounts owed, or any figures that are reported are accurate as shown.
Okay.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that the system itself, and one of the things I wanted to go to afterwards, sorry, I think you had a point?
No,
Okay.
I'm gonna have one.
Okay, yeah, so one of the things that we think is absolutely necessary here, and what our team is currently doing, is doing a full-scale audit of the application itself. That will go into a lot more detail, looking at how data was migrated from the previous system into the new system, looking at all the controls that exist within the system to ensure, first and foremost, that the correct data is stored in the system. Then probably from there look at the reporting tools that are being used to actually extract the data as well from that point. So that audit, like I said, it is currently ongoing. Estimated completion time from now is probably another 2 months, but it is looking in quite a bit of detail on the data reliability, the migration integrity from the legacy systems, how accounts are classified, accuracy of the balances and aging in all categories, and enforcement and collection procedures as well.
Okay, Director McNabb, did you want to speak on that or wait to the end?
I was just gonna mention that, probably the biggest issue that we've run into
Right there.
with Enquesta is that there is no cutoff. In other words, there's not a time where we cut off the system so that we can run, that the system does not allow us to establish a cutoff time. And so what we have found is when, and I've got people stop and work on Thursday evening every week so that we can try to get a clean cutoff. But what we have found is we run an aging report, and we run the detail aging, and then we run the summary aging, and somebody makes a payment in between, and the two reports aren't gonna match at that point. And that's, to me, a major system flaw. Because if we can't get a clean cutoff so that we can pull all these various pieces of data and see how they all match, we're stuck. I mean, we're sitting there hunting for to try to make those reports reconcile. We're out there hunting for individual customer payments to try to make those reconcile. And that's just ridiculous. I mean, I'm sorry, that's.
Okay, no, understood.
That's
Yeah,
system
no,
problem.
thanks for explaining that. That didn't understand that, so now that makes sense. Commissioner Messiah?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And so is it an opportunity for us to go all offline and sort of cut that system off at a time frame similar to, you know,
I know.
Just
We've
pull
been
the plug.
thinking. Yeah.
We've been thinking.
Yes, similar to other entities, organizations, they will say that, you know, a system is down for a particular time frame, you know, a couple of hours, however long it takes to be able to run repairs, do updates. So, and they provide notice, you know, a couple of days beforehand, just to say a system will be down. So
That's exactly what we're working on, is trying to get them to revise our system so that the payments and every other transaction, now we can stop our billing from going forward, but it's real different, we can't stop the payments. So we've got to get the payment vendor to like hold those payments in like a little file for an hour or 2 hours.
Right.
So that and we can run all of our reports, and then they can import the rest of the data, and that's pretty involved. But yes, that's exactly how we're going to proceed, so you have a fabulous idea.
thank you so much. I'll yield back to you, Mr. Chair.
Great, thank you. All right, Director Campbell?
I believe that concludes the presentation, but again, I believe that the audit of the system would also help significantly. We'll also be working with the finance department with that freeze process as well. We would definitely want to look at the different reports that are generated at different cutoff periods over a period of time to examine, were there any significant changes? What were the causes for those differences? And I believe after we've gone through that process, after we have looked, the IT team has looked more closely at the application to see if there are any control issues, input control issues, and any issues from the legacy data that was brought over from the prior system. Then we'll get a better sense of, where to go from there in terms of the accuracy of the reports.
And we're looking forward to that significantly, because what we've had to do is find all of these little issues by trial and error.
Okay.
These were things that the new system was supposed to have all the exact same reports as our old system, et cetera. And we're finding out by trial and error that that's not the case.
Okay, so, all right, so what I'm hearing is that, Director Campbell, you and your team are working with finance to kind of firm up some of these numbers, maybe help address some of the inconsistencies in the reporting, and hopefully out of that exercise, we'll have some recommendations, fixes, more updated data?
Definitely as a result of the audit, there will be recommendations. We, at the very least, will be looking at, necessary improvement controls within the application, things that would help to support more accurate reporting.
Okay. And are we, in that process, are y'all also just providing a review on Enquesta as a system as a whole? And is there any considerations about looking for a different system in the future? You don't have to answer that. I'm talking to Zach and Diane.
But nonetheless, it is a part of the scope of the audit as well.
Okay.
Looking at, are there certain system limitations? Are there things that can be fixed. So if we do come across an issue within the system, one question would be, is this something that actually can be fixed, or is it something that is just a part of the system, and start to look at other, either workarounds or compensating controls or other alternative means of verifying the data. But that will be a part of the scope, looking at issues that other jurisdictions have had with the system, known issues with the system, and so forth.
Okay. Zach,
No,
you're
no, I
respond to
think
that?
Levi, yeah.
Okay, all right, so to recap, we're gonna get make sure the data quality issues are addressed, but also in that exercise, figure out how we could improve the system data in the future, but also trying to recognize any shortcomings of the current system. You're gonna talk to other jurisdictions that use Enquesta, and then
if
maybe out of that, there might be some recommendations.
And if there's things we need to do differently too, operationally.
Okay,
Right. So we'll look at all that.
okay, all right, any other questions, comments? Commissioner Masai?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I know that we don't usually, people won't usually put utilities on their bankruptcies, but they, when it comes to foreclosures, that's something different, particularly where we can, particularly work with the courts. And when it comes to judicial sales, is there something that we have presently in place where, if a judicial sale is about to take place, making sure that we can try to capture those funds that are due to the county? Is there something, an opportunity there? Or is there something that we do presently?
That's something that we get from the tax commissioner, and we follow up on the tax sales and ensure that we're getting the liens satisfied.
Okay.
And fortunately, there's when a closing attorney, when sellers are changing, when something's changing hands, the majority of closing attorneys know that the utility bill is an automatic lien. We don't technically have to file that lien. It's like property taxes. It comes out, and they'll call and get the most current balance.
Okay, that's great. And then in terms of our policy and regulations for liens, I presume we're putting some type of, and this may be a legal question, notice to let them know that if they default on, we intend to capture, those monies by putting a lien on the property to recover their bills, their water bills.
Yeah. I don't know, do we advise them that when they open up the account as an owner? That's a good idea,
That's just something that's kind of like taxes. It just automatically happens, but there's no reason we can't.
Right,
Right.
okay.
Okay.
Thank
Well, I
you.
think that's a great point, because I think let's make sure all of our customers
Fully
know the full
understand,
extent of
right.
what the law allows.
Right.
And it does seem like in some scenarios, we will be more aggressive on liens. I do want to point out that I think, in the realm of sort of the vulnerable populations, hopefully we can seek other remedies through Urban League and the customer protection programs before we go toward the lien route. So I think, if you have a big corporate owner that is an apartment and they are owned by a hedge fund and have hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue, to me, that would make sense to prioritize versus sort of the low-income families and grandmas.
And most of our low-income folks don't own their own homes, but
Yeah. So just in that, but the point is just in the vein of the vulnerable populations, I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze. So let's at least try to have that sort of in the discussions, I think, with Urban League and how they approach it as well.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay. You're welcome. All right. I think that completes the presentation. Thank you, Director Campbell, for being here. Committee members, tomorrow's FAB meeting might be really short. So Madam Chair Pex, you have a lot extra time to work with. We'll probably still have it just because it's on the agenda, but it might be like a 5-minute meeting. So just FYI. And we could do the jail tour, I don't know. All right, I'll take a motion for adjournment.
Move we adjourn?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Meeting adjourned. Thank you all very much. See you tomorrow.